Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to be building a website bookmarking application using pure JavaScript. Okay, no Angular, React, no frameworks, not even jQuery. You guys have been asking for something like this using purely JavaScript, so I figured this would be a good example. Alright, so we're going to be using HTML5 local storage to store our bookmarks. Okay, so that way even if we close out the browser and we come back, they're still going to be there. Alright, so very simple. We're also using Bootstrap. We're using one of the default templates, and basically all we have to do is put in a name. And actually, let me just show you first. We have a little bit of validation. If we try to submit this, it's going to say please fill in the form. Alright, now if we put in a name and then we put something that's not a URL and submit, please use a valid URL. Alright, so let's do http twitter.com and submit, and you'll see that gets added. Alright, and if I reload, it's still there. Even if I were to exit out of the browser and come back, it's still going to be there. Alright, we can actually see if we go to our Google Chrome tools and go to application, local storage, file, you can see we have a bookmarks key, and we're storing a string, a parse string of a JSON array, object array that has all the bookmarks. Alright, so it's going to be pretty simple. If you are very fluent in JavaScript, then this will be very easy for you. If not, I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can. I'm going to put a lot of comments in the code for you guys. We're going to be working with different parts of JavaScript as far as functions and events, listening for events, things like that. Local storage, of course. And then we can choose to visit one of these links. Okay, that'll bring us to the site in a new tab, and we can also delete. Okay, we can delete them, and if I reload, they're gone. Alright, so that's what we'll be building. First thing we're going to do is create the UI here, which is very simple. We're going to go to Get Bootstrap, and let's go ahead and just download it, which I've already done quite a few times. And let's create our folder. Okay, so I'm just going to create a folder on my desktop, and we're going to call this Bookmarker. Okay, let's create an index.html file. Okay, that'll be the only HTML file. This is a single page application. And then let's open up the Bootstrap zip file. Okay, we're going to bring over all of these folders, and let's clean it up a little bit. In the CSS, all we want is Bootstrap. Let's use bootstrap.min.css, so that's the only one we want. We can delete the rest. Alright, and then in JS, we just want bootstrap.min.js. Okay, so that's that. Now let's open up index.html. I'm going to use Atom for my text editor, but of course you can use whatever you'd like. I'm going to open that folder as a project. Let's see, it's on my desktop. Bookmarker. Alright, so if we go to Get Bootstrap, and let's go to Getting Started and then Examples. And we're going to use this right here, this narrow Jumbotron template. So if we click on that, it'll open it up, and what we want to do is just do a Control-U. We're going to grab all the source for that, copy it, and paste it in our index file. Alright, so let's go up to the top here and just kind of work our way down. Alright, so we want this stuff. We can delete this comment down to here. We don't need that. And let's change the title. We'll say Site Bookmarker. Now for the link to the Bootstrap min CSS, we just want to get rid of this dist right here. Okay, it should just be css/bootstrap.min, and then we can delete the rest of the stuff that's in the head. Okay, just make this really simple. And let's see. As far as the markup, this is a single page application, so we don't need the nav, so let's get rid of the UL right here. Get rid of that. Project name, we'll change that to Bookmarker. Okay, let's see, Jumbotron heading. let's actually make this an H2, and we'll say bookmark your favorite sites. Okay, and I'm kind of going through the markup really quick because the main focus of this is the JavaScript. You guys probably know this. If you don't know HTML or Bootstrap, I would suggest watching some of my recent videos on both. I have an HTML5 website video and also a couple new Bootstrap videos. Alright, so in here, let's get rid of those paragraphs, and we're going to put a form. Okay, so we'll say form, and we're going to give it an ID. Let's just call it my form. Okay, and inside here, let's put a div with the class of form group. Okay, and inside here, we'll put a label. This will be the site name. And then we'll put an input. Give it a type of text, and let's give it a class of form control so that it goes across the whole element. We also want to give it an ID. I'm going to give it an ID of site name, and we'll give it a placeholder, and we'll just say enter, actually we'll just say website name. Okay, so that's our first input. Let's copy that form group div, paste it underneath, and this one is going to be the site URL. We'll change the ID to site URL and change this to website URL. Okay, then we just need our button. So let's do button, and we're going to give it a type of submit. Okay, and let's see what else. Let's give it a class, Bootstrap class, BTN, and BTN-primary. That'll make it a blue color. Just say submit. Alright, so there's our form. Now for the row down here, you'll see that it's using the grid system. It's using two 6-column divs. What we want is just one 12-column, okay, one that goes across the whole thing. So let's change this to 12. And we can get rid of this 6-column one. Alright, and then down in the footer, let's just change this. We'll just say Bookmarker. And down at the bottom, we need to link our JavaScript so we can get rid of this IE10 thing. Alright, so we need to link our Bootstrap JavaScript file. So script source, and that's in the JS folder /bootstrap.min.js. Now we also need jQuery if we're going to use the Bootstrap JS, so let's just grab the jQuery CDN. Okay, jQuery code.jQuery.com. We'll just click on the version 3 uncompressed, and let's grab this script tag. Okay, we'll put that, make sure you have it above the Bootstrap. Okay, and then we're also going to have a JavaScript file that we work in, which will be called main.js. So let's link that. Okay, and that should do it. Now, in this row here, this is where our results are going to be, or you know, the bookmarks that are stored in local storage. So all we need here is a div with an ID that we can latch onto later and output. Okay, so we're going to call this bookmarks results. Alright, and that should do it for the markup. All we need to include our style sheet that we're going to create. So under the Bootstrap style sheet, let's put in style.css. Alright, so we'll save that. Now if we were to open this up in Chrome, it should look like this. Now notice that it's not formatted exactly like this is. That's because this actually uses an extra style sheet. So again, let's do a Control U, and you'll see there's a file called jumbotronnarrow.css. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to just grab this CSS here. Okay, copy it, and then in our CSS folder, we're going to create our style.css file. Okay, and any extra styles that you have, you can put in this file. Oops, let's open that in Atom. Okay, style CSS, and we're going to paste that in. Alright, so now let's go back to our site and reload, and now it looks more like the demo. So the interface is complete. Okay, now we're going to move on to the JavaScript, which is the important part. So the first thing I want to do is I want to be able to submit our site to local storage. Alright, so we need to have an event on this form, on this submit. So what we'll do is let's go into our main.js. Actually, we need to create it first. So main.js. And just to make sure that this is working, let's just say alert 1. And if we reload, we get 1. Alright. So we want to create a listener here. So let's say listen for form submit. And what we want to do is we want to target the form. Okay, so if we look at it, it has an ID of my form, camel case. So what we can do here is we can say document dot get element by ID, and then we can pass in here my form, okay, because we gave it an ID of my form. And then what we want to do is we want to add an event listener. So what we can say dot add event listener, okay, and then that's going to take in some parameters. That's going to take in the actual event you want to listen for, which is going to be a submit. Okay, it's a form, so it has a submit. And then we want to put in the function that we want to call when that happens, which is going to be called save bookmark. Alright, so let's go ahead and create that. So we'll say function save bookmark, and let's test it out by just doing a console.log, and we'll just say it works. Okay, so let's save that, and now you're gonna hit F12 to open up Chrome tools or Firefox tools, whatever you're using, and let's go ahead and click submit. Now notice that if you look here, when I click it, it does say it works, but it flashes really quick and it goes away. The reason that's happening is because the form is actually submitting to the page, and we don't want that. We want to kind of stop it so that we can work with it. Now the way that we do that is when we call this function, we can actually pass in an event parameter here. And one of the methods that we can use on that is prevent default, which prevents the default behavior of the form. So we can say e.prevent default, like that. Alright, so now let's go back and reload and submit, and now you can see it says it works, and it doesn't flash, it just stays there. If I keep clicking it, it just keeps happening. Okay, it just adds 1 to that. So that's what we want. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to get the values that we pass in here. Okay, when we put something in here, we want to be able to grab these. Alright, so let's get rid of the console log and make sure you keep this prevent default. Let's actually put a comment. Let's say prevent form from submitting. Okay, let's put a comment here too. Just say save bookmark. Okay, so we want to create 2 variables for our form values. So let's just say get form values, and we're going to say var. Now I'm just going to use ES5 here. I'm not going to use let or const because I don't want to have to set up any, I don't want to have to set up Babel or anything like that. So, and you should know ES5 syntax if you're just learning JavaScript anyway. All right. So we're going to say var, and we'll call this site name, and we're going to set that to document.getElement by ID. Okay, we want to get site name, because remember that input we created right here has an ID of site name. Alright, now let's see what that gives us if we were to console.log it. Okay, so we'll reload, we'll just put something in here and submit, and you can see it actually logs the entire element, okay, the input tag and everything. Now we want to get the value that's typed in, not the actual element. So what we can do is just add on to this and say dot value. Alright, so let's go ahead and reload that and type something in and submit, and now you can see we're getting the actual value. Alright, so we want to do that for the site name and the site URL. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Site URL. Alright. Now, when we submit to local storage, when we save this, we're going to save it as an array of objects. Alright, so we want to create an object that we want to get an object ready to submit to local storage. So we're going to create another variable here called bookmark, and we'll set it to an object which is formatted in curly braces. Alright, and then it's going to have a name which we'll set to site name, and then a URL which we'll set to site URL. Okay, so let's go ahead and console log that. Okay, so if we said Google and we put http google.com submit, you'll see that now we're getting an object with a name and a URL. Okay, so that's what we want to submit to local storage. So local storage, what I'm going to do is just give you a quick example here. Local storage test. And the way that this works is it stores strings. Okay, local storage only stores strings, but I'm going to show you how we can actually parse the JSON into a string, save it, and then when we need to get it back, we can parse it back to JSON. Okay, it's only a matter of running it through a single function. Alright, so to set something in local storage, we just want to say local storage. There's no external libraries or anything. It's part of the HTML5 standard. So we're going to say local storage dot set item. Okay, and then you can choose a key to save as. I'm just going to say test. That's the key. And then the value, let's just say hello world. Alright, so that'll actually save the text hello world as test in local storage. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's reload. And we're just going to, it doesn't matter what we put in here because we're saving it as test anyway. So submit. Now nothing happens because we're not outputting local storage anywhere, but we can check it if we go to our tools here and go to application and then local storage, click on this file, you'll see we now have test and hello world. Okay, and we can delete from here as well. We can just delete both of those. And now if I reload, the local storage value is gone. Now if we want to get an item, if we want to get an item, we can say local storage dot get item, and we want to get test. Okay, let's actually console log that. Alright, so now if we reload, and obviously to run this we have to submit, and we get hello world. Okay, it's fetching it from local storage. Now if we want to delete from local storage, we can say local storage dot remove item test. So now when we submit this form, it's going to set the item, it's going to console log it, and then delete it, and then let's console log it again just to show you that it's gone. Okay, we'll save that, reload, submit. Okay, so it logs it, and then it removes it, and then it's null. Alright, so that's how local storage works. I'm gonna keep this here for you guys, but I'm gonna comment it out. Alright. So moving on, what we want to do is we want to save this bookmark that we created in local storage. But before we do that, we have to actually see if there's a bookmark value there. Alright, because if it is there, then we have to fetch it, add to it, and then save it again. So we're going to put an if statement here, and we're going to say if local storage dot get item, and we want to check for an item called Bookmarks. Alright, and we want to check to see if that's null. So we want to do a triple equals null. Alright, so if it's null, then that means that we need to initialize an array. So we'll create an array called Bookmarks, right? And let's just put a comment here. And let's put a comment here. Test. Alright, so what we want to do is take this variable and we want to call .push. That's going to add to the array our bookmark that we created up here with the form values. Alright, so we'll go like that. And then finally we want to set to local storage, because right now it's just a local array. So to do that, we'll say local storage dot set item. We want to set it as bookmarks, and we have our bookmark that we want to add now, or bookmark, sorry. Now if we do this, this is actually a JSON array. We need to save it as a string, so we're just going to wrap it in a function called JSON.stringify. Alright, and that'll actually take our JSON array and turn it into a string before we save it in local storage. So let's go ahead and save this. Now this should run because we don't have anything in bookmarks yet. It is null. So it should run and it should store it. So let's say Google, and we'll save our link here and click submit. And now let's go to application, local storage, file, and you'll see that it's stored here. Okay, it's a string formatted JSON array. So that's what we want. Now, if we want to add something else, we have to tweak this a little bit. So we're going to put an else here. Okay, so this is if there is something in bookmarks, then what do? First thing, we want to fetch it from local storage. Alright, so let's say get bookmarks from local storage. We can do that with local storage.getItem. Let's see, get item bookmarks, and we want to put this into a variable. Alright, now remember it stores strings, so this is going to be a string, and we don't want that. We want to parse it as JSON. So we want to run it through a function called JSON.parse. Alright, so just remember that JSON.parse will turn a string into JSON, or back into JSON. JSON stringify will turn it into a string. Alright, you just want to kind of alternate those, whether you're setting or getting from local storage, unless of course you're actually storing strings. Alright, so now we have whatever is in that local storage inside this variable. So what we want to do is we want to add the bookmark that we're submitting to that array. Alright, so let's say add bookmark to array, and we do that with bookmarks.push and bookmark. Okay, and we're just talking about this up here. So we add it to the array, and then what we want to do is set it back to local storage. Alright, so we're going to kind of reset it back to local storage, and we can do that with this same command right here, just like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that and reload. And now let's say we want to add Facebook. Okay, submit, and then let's take a look down here. And we have another value in our array with the name of Facebook and the URL facebook.com. Okay, so that's working fine. Our values are being stored how we want. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is we want to show those bookmarks down here. Okay, everything that's in local storage we want to display. So to do that, we're going to create another function. So let's go underneath save bookmark. Okay, and we'll call this fetch bookmarks. Okay, that actually has to have a function keyword. Alright, so to do this, let's see, what we want to do is create a variable called bookmarks. Actually, we want to do the same thing right here. We're just fetching it from local storage. Okay, and then let's just console.log for now, like that. Now we need a way for this to run, because right now we're just defining it. So what I'm going to do is go to index.html, and on the body tag I'm just going to put an onload and set that to fetch bookmarks. Alright, so now when we reload, that should run automatically. So let's open up the console and reload, and you can see it's getting the local storage bookmarks. Alright, so that's what we want. Now remember, we have this div called bookmarks results. That's where we want to put them after we fetch them. So let's go back to our fetch bookmarks function. We'll get rid of that, and let's say get output ID. So we'll create a variable called bookmarks results, set it to document.get element by ID, bookmarks results. Okay, and then what we want to do is build our output. So we'll take that bookmarks results variable and we'll say .inner HTML equals nothing. Alright, now I can put anything here. Let's just say hello, and then save that, and if we go back and reload, you'll see that hello's being put there. Okay, so we're getting the ID with document.getElementById, and then this inner HTML is just going to do just that. It's going to put whatever HTML that we give it into that spot, okay, through JavaScript. So we actually want to set this to just nothing for now. Alright, and then what we want to do is loop through the bookmarks that are in local storage and then output them one by one inside of a div. Okay, so we're going to use a for loop. And I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but if you're not comfortable with loops and stuff like that, I would definitely suggest my JavaScript Fundamentals for Beginners video, where I go through the very, very basics of JavaScript, loops and functions and all that. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Alright, so we're going to say var I equals 0. Alright, and then we're going to say as long as I is less than bookmarks dot length. Okay, so the amount of bookmarks, which in our case right now is 2, and then we want to I++. We want to increment it after each time. Alright, and then in here, let's create a variable called name, and we can get that with bookmarks. We want the current iteration, so we're going to put an I here, and then .name. Alright, then we want the URL, bookmarks I.url. Okay, so now we have the name and URL for each bookmark. Now we're going to build the output, so we're going to say bookmark results dot inner HTML. Now this time we're appending to it. Alright, if you wanted to put a div or something here, you could, and you could append to it by doing plus equals. Okay, so we want to append to it, and let's say div. Actually, you know what, let's just test it out first, and we'll just put name, okay, which is this right here. So let's save it, and now you can see that it's looping through and it's outputting each bookmark name, which we have Google and Facebook. Alright, so that's good. We know that's working. So we basically want to create a div block here. So let's do div, and we're going to give it a class of well, which is a Bootstrap class. That'll give us a gray background and a border and some padding. And then I want to format this nicely, so what we'll do is go on to, we'll put a plus sign to concatenate, and then we'll go on to a new line. Alright, and then we're going to have an H3. Okay, and then we're going to concatenate the name. Plus sign, we'll go on to a new line. Okay, and then let's put, let's see, let's end the H, actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll end the H3, because we're going to be putting the buttons or the links inside of the H3 as well. Alright, and then we want to end that well div, so we'll go on to the next line and put div. Alright, so let's try that. And there we go, good. So for the buttons, we're going to use links and then just format them as buttons with Bootstrap. So we want to go under, we want to go right here and put a space, and then we'll say A, give it a class of BTN default. I want it to open in a new window, so we're going to say target equals underscore blank. And then we want our href. Alright, now the href is going to be the URL that's coming from local storage, so we're going to put single quotes inside the double quotes and then concatenate the URL. Alright, and then we just want to end that opening A tag and then close it. And then in here we'll just say visit. Okay, and put a space right there. So let's save it and reload, and now we have a visit button. If I click that, it brings us to the website. Alright, we also want a delete button. So what I'll do is this needs to have a, we'll put a plus sign here, copy this whole line, and we're going to give this one a class of button danger to make it red. And let's see, this text, we're going to change that to delete. And then the href is just going to be a number sign because it's not actually going to go anywhere. We're actually going to call a function. Okay, so we want to put in an onClick. Okay, we want to say onClick, and we're going to call a function called delete bookmark. Okay, now we want to pass in the URL here, and this is a little weird. We have to escape the quotes, and we escape with the backslash. Alright, and then we also want to concatenate the URL, so we need another quote, and then a plus sign, put the URL in, plus sign, and then we need another escape like that. Alright, so that should work. That's going to pass in the URL to this delete bookmark. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, make sure it shows up. Okay, if I click delete, it's not going to do anything, it just reloads the page. We need to create the delete bookmark function. Alright, so let's put that right here. So we'll say function delete bookmark. Okay, remember that's going to take in a URL. And let's just do console.log URL. Alright, whoop. So let's go ahead and click delete. Whoops, what's going on here? Oh, I have it set to target blank. We don't want that. So the delete shouldn't have the target attribute. Alright, so now I click delete and you'll see that it shows the URL. So that's what we want. Now, to delete, what we need to do is first fetch the bookmarks from local storage. Then we want to loop through them and then check to see if the current one we're looping through matches this URL. If it does, we're going to splice it out, and then we're going to reset local storage. All right, so let's say get okay, so var bookmarks. Actually, I can just copy this right here. Alright, so basically all of this consists of just grabbing it from local storage, changing it the way we want, and then resetting it. Alright, so now let's loop through bookmarks. So for, yeah, var I equals 0, as long as I is less than bookmarks dot length, and then I plus plus. Okay, and then what we want to do is do an if statement, and we want to say if the current iteration, so bookmarks I URL, is equal to the URL that's passed in up here, then we know that's the one we want to delete. So we'll say remove from array, and we do that with bookmarks dot splice. Okay, we want to splice at the current iteration, and we want to splice out 1 from that. Alright, and then all we have to do after that is reset the local storage, and we want to do that under the loop. Okay, so right here. And we can just grab this. Alright, so that'll reset the local storage after we delete it. So let's save that. Alright, so if we go down here and we click delete, now it's still there, but if I reload, it goes away. The reason that's happening is it's deleting it after it fetches the bookmarks. So what we want to do is just call fetch bookmarks again. Alright, so we'll just say refetch bookmarks, and we just have to say fetch bookmarks, just like that. And we should also do this after we add a bookmark. So let's copy that and go to our add bookmarks, our save bookmark, and we'll put that right here. Alright, so now let's try to add, we'll say Twitter and HTTP Twitter submit. Okay, there it is. Reload, it's still there, and then I click delete and it goes away. Reload and it's still gone. Alright, so that's that. Now the next thing I want to do is just take care of the validation. Alright, and I think that's pretty much the last thing we have. Alright, because right now if I submit, you'll see it's going to save an empty bookmark, and we don't want that. That's stupid. So let's go up to our save bookmark. Alright, and we're going to go, let's see, right after here, and we'll say if not site name or not site URL. Okay, so if either one of these are not here, then we want to alert. We'll say please fill in the form. Alright, now in order for it to stop, we're going to just return false, okay, because we don't want it to keep going. So let's try that. We'll reload, and if we submit, we get please fill in the form, and it doesn't submit. Alright, so that's good. Now we also want to add another rule here, that this has to be a URL. It has to be formatted with HTTP. Alright, so to do that, we can use a regular expression. Alright, now regular expressions, I'm not going to go over them, but basically it's some kind of pattern matching. You want to match some kind of pattern. And there's predefined regular expressions for email addresses and URLs. We just need to find one. So let's say regex URL. And right here. what is a good regular expression to match a URL? This is actually the one I used. So go down to this answer here, and right here we have a good code block of just that. So what I'm going to do is grab these two lines and copy them. Okay, I'm going to paste that in. So right here we're setting the expression. This is a regular expression to format a URL, okay, which is very long and very annoying looking. And then what we want to do is create a variable called regex or whatever you want and set it to new regexp and pass in that expression. Okay, so that'll actually create the regular expression. And then what we want to do, as you can see here, they said if whatever they want to match, dot match, pass in regex. If that's successful, they're alerting success. If not, they're alerting not. So we want to call this match. All right, so let's go back and go if, we'll say if site URL dot match and then pass in regex. All right, we actually want to test to see if it doesn't match, so we're going to put an exclamation there. So that's saying if it doesn't match. Then we want to alert. Please use a valid URL. Okay, and then we just want to return false. So let's give it a shot. So if we say Twitter and we just try to add Twitter and submit, please use a valid URL. Good. All right, but if we say Twitter and then http twitter.com submit, it works. Okay, so that's good. Now what I would do in this situation is create a separate function for the validation. So let's copy that from this if statement down to here, and we're going to cut that out. And then let's go down to the bottom and create a new function called validate form, and then we're going to paste that in. Okay, and let's see, we want to return false if that happens, return false if this happens. If we get to the end and it passes, we just want to return true. All right, and then that way we can go back up to where we had it, and we can basically say if not validate form, and we need to pass in the site name and site URL, which I need to add down there in a minute. Then we want to return false. Okay, and we need to add that down here. Okay, so validate form, pass in the site name and the site URL. Alright, so let's save it. Submit, please fill in the form, good. Just put something and put something that's not a URL, and we get please use a valid URL. Alright, so we're just about done. The last thing I want to do is I want to clear the form after we submit it. So that's really simple. We're just going to go down or up to, we'll go right here, and we'll say clear form, and we'll grab, we'll say document.get element by ID. We want to grab the form, which has an ID of my form, and then we can call dot reset. That'll reset the form. Alright, so one last try here. Let's say Facebook, HTTP Facebook, submit, and the form clears, it gets added. Alright, so that's our application. Hopefully you guys learned a bit from this. We hit quite a few aspects of JavaScript, and like you guys asked, no Angular or framework or not even jQuery or any external library. Alright, just straight JavaScript and HTML5. So I will give you guys a link to the code. Also, if you like this, then check out my 10 projects in JavaScript and jQuery course, where we create simple applications with just JavaScript as well as jQuery. Also, if you like this video, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you have any questions, leave a comment. And if I don't get back to you, I'm sure someone else will be able to help. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.